Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I am very excited to do another RC driving lessons. This one focusing on race strategies. I'm gonna do as best I can to give you an overview of how I approach a vehicle, taking it to the track and racing it in the main event. A lot of times we go to the track and we don't really have a game plan. And that's okay in most cases. We're just there to have fun, get away from the stresses of life, and enjoy a day at the track. If you find yourself in the situation where you're looking for some success and you're really just trying to build some momentum, some consistency in your success, I think one of the best ways to do that is to come up with a strategy that you understand and you can replicate and improve over time. What I do working on the workbench here on this FlexiSpot E7 Plus, more on that in a second, to how I approach my practice, my qualifiers, and then ultimately what I do in a main event. All of these have a little bit of calculations to them, and I'm going to share those with you guys today in hopes that it helps you in your racing efforts. Let's jump into where we start right here on the workbench with this FlexiSpot E7 Plus. Thank you to the folks at FlexiSpot who are sponsoring today's video. This desk you see before you is a absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, incredibly sturdy electronic standing desk. If you're like me, you put in some wrenching sessions that are way longer than they should be, whether you're gluing tires, building a fresh kit, painting a body, whatever the case may be, you have sat in one place for way too long. And when you go to stand up, you say, oh my goodness, my neck, my back, everything is out of whack. What have I done? One of the ways that you can alleviate some of that stress is implementing an electronic standing desk like this one. This particular one is incredibly sturdy, quiet, smooth, ergonomic. Let me show you. This 4-leg electronic standing desk, not only is it smooth, quiet, stable, it supports up to 540 pounds. Put a bunch of stuff up here and it's gonna be just fine. If you're worried about the stability and the overall smoothness between these transitions, here's an example of my phone standing on its edge, doing just fine as it's moving from its low to high position. Now I know what you're thinking, these desks, sure they may be nice, but they are usually incredibly expensive. Like this example here, we see it's just over $1,500. Very nice, also very expensive. Here's another competitor's example with a $1,000 price point, and I'm not even sure that one comes with a tabletop. So again, very nice, very expensive. With the link down below, you can save a bunch of money at half or a third of the price point of its competitors. On top of that, to sweeten the deal even more, they have given us a special discount code that you can apply at checkout to save an additional $50. Use code YTE7P50, save yourself 50 bucks. That discount code can save you 50 bucks on the E7 Plus, Pro, and L model. So check it out down below. Upgrade your wrench station, save your neck, save your back, get yourself one of these nice desks. So thank you to the folks at FlexiSpot for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the strategies for today's video. Before I get to the racetrack, I need to understand a couple things about the racetrack in a general sense that will help me understand where I'm going to begin with my setup before I get to the track. Using my nitro truck as an example, we can see that I am going to aim for a medium grip outdoor type of track. Many of you 8-scale enthusiasts will probably find yourself in a similar situation, so hopefully this will be almost directly applicable to your circumstances. We will call this the baseline setup. This is something that you will probably take to most tracks and you will tweak according to the specific conditions. So strategy number 1, get the base setup and understand where it will most likely go once you get to the racetrack. Are you going to go up in diff fluids? Are you going to go up in shock fluids, or vice versa? Is the track going to break down and reduce in grip? Is it going to increase in grip and you're going to have to change the car that direction? Once I have my base understanding of what the track is most likely going to be, I'm going to hopefully select the right tires before I get to the track. Again, using this medium general base setup, it's going to most likely be something like a reflex style track. The J Concepts Reflex is incredibly versatile. It's a very traditional pin and it has a very wide window of working ability. The track can reduce in grip, it can increase in grip, and it's still going to be a very competitive tire. Now, if we start to get to some extremes outside of our middle ground, let's say that the track is going to hold its shape, stay relatively smooth, and go blue groove. Well, then I'm probably going to need to prepare with something like a relapse style tire, something with a more condensed tread pattern. It's designed to handle some higher bite conditions, give you some more corner speed. That's gonna be the way we'll go. If it goes in the opposite direction, where we're gonna see the track fall apart and get giant potholes, and there's gonna be a solid layer of fluff on top of the racing surface. In that scenario, you're gonna go with something that's a slightly bigger pin, perhaps, than a Reflex. Something like a Stalker or a Cosmos. Get those big chunky pins that will help us get through that nasty track. So the strategy that I'm going to be going through that I used in this particular race example, going with the medium level grip that works its way to a high level grip, we are going to opt to have a couple different compounds of reflexes, green being the super soft, blue being a soft, and then I'm going to also have blue relapse and an aqua relapse. That's going to be my predicted window of what the track is going to do and require. I have my game plan with the setup. I know which direction it's going to go. I know the tweaks that I will most likely use in order to follow the track as it progresses towards the main event. What do I do once I get to the track? What is my strategy going from practice to qualifying to the main event? In practice, I think the biggest thing that you should focus on and build off of is finding a car that you can drive. I know that sounds really simple, but let me use myself as an example. For years, I would just want to be the hot lap king in practice. Peaking in practice is rarely the way to go because the track is going to change. People are going to continue to develop their race cars and their tire packages. So what happens in practice ultimately isn't what's going to happen in the main event. I use the practice time wisely. The strategy that I apply is get comfortable. Find a car that I can drive. If you guys remember the comment that Mason Fuller made.
Mason, do you like the Spice or do you like easy to drive?
Easy to drive.
Easy? Really?
You're wrecking.
That's true. I drove your car and it was like the king
Hard
of
to
easy.
drive?
No, it was easy to drive. But it was fast. It was like the best of both worlds.
It was good there at
Yeah, it was like
Exalt Race.
easy to drive and fast.
Yep.
And I cracked your wing. You're welcome.
All good.
There I was teasing him about getting a car that's edgy and harder to drive because it might theoretically be faster in certain areas, but he ultimately wants a car that he knows he can drive for a full main event. And we'll get to that in a second. Predictable setup, applicable tires, practice has gone well. We understand what our foundation is going into the racing portion of the event. Now, what we have to understand about qualifying, if we're talking about 8 scale, even in the e-buggy mains or the e-truggy mains, you're going to run something that's longer than your qualifier at most of the typical race formats. Your qualifier is going to be somewhere around 5 minutes. Your main is going to be something closer to 8 minutes or more, depending on your event. Your nitro main, it could be 20, 30, 45 minutes. What's important to understand about that is knowing that your car, the way that it feels after 5 minutes is going to be slightly different. If you're not aware, the fluids inside your diffs, the fluid inside your shocks, all these things are going to change as the temperature increases and they start to break down a little bit. Your car will become possibly more reactive. Your diffs will feel lighter. It might be harder for you to get on power coming out of a corner and your car not want to continue rotating. Coming back to the example of my truck for this particular event, knowing that my baseline diff setup would be something like 15K in the front, 15K in the center, and 7K in the rear, that's going to be good for something that's low to medium bite. The moment that I see something that is high bite or the temperature starts to increase significantly over 80 degrees, 85 degrees Fahrenheit, I know that those diffs are going to be very thin feeling and way too reactive and have too much rotation for me to hold on to for 30-minute main. It might be sort of okay for 5 minutes, but anything longer than that, it is not going to be something that I can drive. This being a condensed program where practice, qualifying, and main is all in one day, I didn't really want to do a bunch of wrenching if I could avoid it, meaning I wanted to go with the setup as soon as possible that would be good for the main, and I would just drive it through qualifying and deal with a truck that might feel thick. So what did I do? I went to 25K in the front, 25K in the middle, and somewhere around 10 or 12K in the rear. I don't remember specifically, but it was somewhere in that ballpark. The way that truck felt during qualifying was a little stiff, a little slow, didn't really do everything that I would in a perfect sense, but I knew with the strategy that I had been building towards a main event where I would be good all the way to the last lap, and it might take me a few minutes for the truck to warm up, this was the direction I wanted to go. It's important to note that you understand what your truck or buggy car is going to do in your main event versus what it was doing in qualifying. Did the track continue to change? Do your tires feel different? Did your competitors all make a significant change that seemed to work? These are all factors that you need to understand and implement going into your main event. Time to jump into the main event. We have done everything that we can to get prepared, practice, qualify, and understand that we have a vehicle that is now going to perform maximally in its main event debut. What is the plan, the strategy that I am going to execute now that we are here? Showtime. I know that I have a truck that is going to perform better in the last half of the race than it will in the first half. So what does that mean for my first half? In this particular circumstance, we're gonna start this race and I qualified second. So I'm gonna pull up my main event here and I'm gonna talk you through some of the stuff that I had when it came to my strategy to get through this main event. Okay, main event time. Got a strategy for the beginning, middle, and end. Like we talked about with setup, we knew that the first half of the race was going to be a little sketchy, maybe. Truck wasn't going to be firing on all cylinders just yet. So we would have to wait for the last half of the race if we were going to really feel comfortable and rip off some fast laps. We went with a little bit more of a gamble on the tire selection. The track had maintained enough of its surface and grip, the sun was still up, that I could go with a little bit more of an edgy tire, something that gave me a little bit more direct feel. So we went with a relapse style tire in a soft compound. I'm not sure, but I think most of my competitors were on a different tire, something that was more free. So it was something that I had to keep in mind if I found myself in a dicey racing situation. Strategy for the start of the race. Trent, the guy that's in front of me, he's faster than I am. So if I have any chance of being in contention for making a pass for the lead or just staying with him at all, I had to drive out of my comfort zone for at least the first couple minutes and just hope for the best. So at the sound of this tone, I'm going to be driving as hard as I can and hoping for the best case scenario to start this race. Then we'll take it to the middle of the race and we'll talk about how it goes then.
Down and quiet. And here we go. We're off and running. Pro Nitro Trucking now finally underway. Oh, problems there for Cerner. Going to get on the wrong side of the pipe. Going to lose several positions. Still all hung up on the pipe. Feet. Problems here at the start in the back of the pack. They're trying to get it all worked out. Trent Walker leading the way after setting TQ into Techno. Working on the top right-hand side of the track. Here he comes down the hill.
Lap one, a little bit of a gap. Try to crank up the intensity, see if we can close this gap on lap two.
Followed closely by Ryan Harris and Patrick Rossler to 1, 2, and 3. Trying to break away from the field here. Brad Nicosia holding on to the 4. Aiden Kochu up to the 5.
So here we are starting lap 3. and I'm still in it. Usually Trent is starting to build a gap by this point, but I think that his truck was a little bit on the softer side. His diffs were a little lighter, and I could see his truck moving around a lot. And I know how that truck feels when it's doing that. It's not the easiest thing to hold on to. My truck was much calmer, had more grip, so all I had to do was continue to hit my marks, drive it as close to the 100% capability mark as possible, and hope that a passing opportunity would present itself.
Ryan Harris all over the back bumper here of Trent Walker. Harris trying to find a way around Walker here. That's a pair of Technos right now running 1 and 2 as they work through the middle of the track. Now to the back. Oh no, Walker into the pipe, spins it around. That's going to allow Ryan Harris to slip past. It's Harris, Walker, Rossler, and Nicosia. Your top 4. All still within striking distance. One. Oh, no, looked like problems there again for Walker. Oh, no, with a break or a flame out or something.
So the start of this race, for once, it went in my favorable direction. Tough break for Trent. He ended up breaking a tie rod after making contact with that corrugated pipe. So we found ourselves with a couple seconds up on Patrick Rossiter. Juan Serna was also experiencing issues. Brad wasn't closing the gap. He wasn't out of it. But I basically, by the first couple minutes, had narrowed down that this race is going to come down between me and Patrick. So going into the first cycle of pit stops, my strategy was to continue to drive the truck at 95% if possible, not worrying about heater laps, and just maintaining this race and waiting for the truck to feel like it's freeing up and going into that late race feel.
Faster here. Oh, man, bicycle in the corner. Now it's going to be Ross, and they're going to slip past.
So here we find ourselves getting ready for the second cycle of pit stops. Made a mistake, and now Patrick has passed me. I definitely thought this was in the realm of possibility. Unfortunate that had to kind of sabotage my own efforts so far, but don't panic. I knew that if this happened, my game plan was going to be stick to the strategy. Drive it at 95%, keep it in the racing line. Don't let the bumps in the track ruin you just because you're trying to drive it a little bit too aggressively. We're going to cycle through this pit stop, and we're going to see what happens.
Harris now looking back to the inside. Here they come down the front straightaway. Battle for the race lead. Patrick Rossiter now out in front. Oh, he bounces it off the pipe. Harris putting the pressure on him here as they work the left-hand side of the track. 13:30 down, 11:30 left to go. In the bottom half. Oh, Harris.
So there you could see starting to push it just a little bit more than what I was, and the track immediately is punishing me. I'm just driving over my head. Track doesn't like it, so I need to calm down, gather my thoughts, and finish out the remainder of this race.
White on the nose, green in the back. Patrick Rossiter is pulling. Oh, no problems there for Harris. Ready to be marshaled. Patrick will be coming up on the backside. I believe that's Anthony Pepe there just in front of him, who's currently running into 5 spot. Rossiter and Harris very close together. Ryan Harris putting a lot of pressure here on Patrick Rossiter, trying to find. Oh, man! He launches his way up into the race.
So that was a nice little pass. So one of my strategies, if you will, throughout the day was understanding the limitations of the track. Will it give me an advantage, or will it give me a disadvantage depending on where I was in the racing line? As the race developed throughout the day, there was a giant hole on the face of this double. So it was very important for me to stay as close as possible to the inside of this pipe, continue to stay on the inside so that I could hit this about 1.5 to 2 foot wide section of the jump where there was no divot, and it would let your truck launch nice and low, flat, and predictable. If you went to the middle, it would kick your truck, it would shoot you up, and it would take a lot longer, as you can see, to just go over that small area of the track.
Patrick Rossiter trying to find. Oh, man!
So important to understand the limitations of the track and use it to your advantage rather than disadvantage.
Launches his way up into the race lead. Harris now to the top spot. Rossiter right there on his back bumper. Here they still got that lap traffic right there in front of them. As they work over on the left-hand side track, that's your leaders, lap traffic. That's your leaders, 1 and 2 directly behind you. They're trying to fight their way around it. There he is. He lets them come through. Man, Rossler all over the backside here of Ryan Harris as they battle it out still with 10 minutes left to go. On to the right-hand side of the track. Here they come down the front straightaway. Oh, he's going to pin at the 15-minute mark for him.
We've survived the first kind of half, the first phase of the race. Patrick is applying a lot of pressure. Now I had a game plan in my head for the last portion of the race. Believe it or not, it's something that I enjoyed talking to Jet and Hunter Lawrence when I was at the Dog Pound with them a few years ago and picking their brain about executing your plan in a main event, maintaining a win and not riding above your head. It's something that we see all the time, not just with those boys, but with other top tier professionals. When they get that lead, it's incredible to watch somebody maintain what's necessary in order to kind of break the will of the person behind. I knew that Patrick and I can go the same speed on any given weekend. What I could hopefully do is find myself in a situation where I had the advantage with a few second lead that would force him to drive faster than he would want to, force him to possibly make some mistakes. In this last portion, we'll see it here in a second, he's going to start ripping off some fast laps, and I knew if that happened that I would have to do it at the right time to maintain the gap, to kind of break his spirits and make him drive a little bit faster than he might want to.
3 minutes left.
Going to have to deal with some lap traffic here in just a moment. Ryan Styles Harris trying to hold on to the race lead and the win here, round number 4 of the Florida RC Championships presented by J Concepts. It is Pro Nitro Truggy. Brought to you by Techno out on the track. The gap, 3.2 seconds. So advantage that time by for Harris.
3.2 seconds. There's going to be a handful of laps to go. This is kind of where I find myself in my most comfortable position. I can race my race. I don't necessarily have to clip off heater laps. I can hit my marks, be consistent, and try to force the opponent behind me to make those mistakes.
Harris going to have to deal with a ton of lap traffic as he comes towards the option jumps. They're battling for position there in front of him. Your leader coming to you, leader coming to you. As he works through the middle section of the track, the yellow and red out in front. Lap traffic trying to let him come through. Top right hand.
Huge. Knowing that lap traffic can be chaotic. We've had a couple laps with this pink and yellow truck throughout the race where it takes him sometimes a couple corners, half a lap. At some points it was an entire lap where he was going a lap down, several laps down, and he just doesn't want to get out of the way. I understand we're racing, we all paid to be here, and you want to race everybody on the track, but this particular circumstance, I'm racing for the win. You're several laps down at this point. You're not battling anyone. The only thing that's going to happen is you're going to potentially ruin the race for myself or both of us if something really bad happens. So it's very nice, respectful. If you can just find a little bit of room, I'll take the inside, move right on by, and we can all live to see another day rather than ruin everybody's racing efforts.
Let him come through.
So we check up because I knew he wasn't going to let me by, and I'm just waiting for a very clear area that I can get by him and continue my race.
Right-hand side of the track. Here he comes onto the front straightaway. Fourth truck in line is race leader. Patrick Rossiter trying to close the gap. 2.2 seconds now the gap between 1 and 2.
I got by, made a mistake, and now I have to race him again.
Lap traffic now, battling it out. Patrick Rossiter right there with him. Oh no, lap.
And that was just unfortunate because Patrick had taken advantage of me getting checked up in a mistake, and then that same lapper kind of gets tangled up with him and hurts him a little bit. Again, super avoidable. He could have moved over for both of us and been in the same exact spot in relation to everyone else on the track. It's unfortunate.
Traffic getting tied up there. Now Russell's going to be able to clear it. The battle less than 1 second now between 1 and 2 with 1:50 left to go. Patrick Russell out of the backside here of Ryan Harris trying to find a way around. Here he comes down the front straightaway. Rossiter is there. Harris trying to hold on to the top spot. What a race here, Pro Nitro Truck, and these two have been going at it for 15 minutes here. They're going to be dealing with lap traffic here again in just a moment. Lap traffic trying to pull over. Let them come through the option jumps. Oh no! Rossiter gets it hung up on the pipe, but somehow marshals it himself.
I could tell Rossiter is pushing it really hard, making some tiny mistakes that I can see out of the corner of my eye. So it was giving me a little bit of confidence that it was taking everything he had to run me down and putting him in a very uncomfortable position in order to take the win away from me.
A little bit of breathing room here now for Harris. Harris coming up on the backside of an all-white truck here on the top right-hand side. Here they come, down the front straightaway. That's Brad Nicosia there just in front of him.
1 minute left.
Ryan Harris in that yellow and red. Rossiter in the white and green. The gap is 2 seconds between 1 and 2. 1 minute left to go.
2 seconds, 2 laps to
And
go.
Rossiter closed the gap.
I can
The lap
maintain
traffic
about
back
that
clear.
95%
Not that one. As he pulls over and
level.
lets him go. Rossiter closing the gap. He was 2 seconds back. That gap's right at about 1.5 now. Onto the right-hand side of track. 35 seconds left to go. Oh, no!
30 seconds
Oh,
left.
man. Rossiter bounces it off with the light fixture over there.
So you could see it's just hats off to Patrick. He's giving it everything he's got. He's hitting any line that he can find to go faster. And it just, unfortunately, it cost him in that scenario. So don't like to see it come down to a last lap mistake that's going to, give away a race. But again, we're racing hard. That stuff's going to happen.
The gap now 3 seconds. 25 seconds left to go in the race. Ryan Harris on the back section of the track.
15 seconds left.
Harris now working in and through the middle. Onto the right-hand side. He probably been a shock or something, looks like. Looks like Rossiter bent a right front shock whenever he had the incident over there.
Turn it done.
But luckily, this is the last lap. Coming down the
One
front
lap done.
straightaway and taking the
I'd like
win
to see it done.
here at Pro Nitro Trucking. It'll be Ryan Styles Harris, and finishing the
Rossiter
number
done.
2 hard-fought
And Darrell done.
position. It will be Patrick
80
Rossiter in
done.
2, Juan Cerna 3, Brad Nicosia in the 4,
Tony Padishal done.
and
So there you have it. Main event, we tried to build some strategy, some thought that went into it, and I think that I did a decent job at executing my plan of staying consistent, hitting my marks, not trying to drive outside of my ability, and on this particular day, it paid off in a win. So hats off to Patrick and everybody else that did a great job. It was a fun day at the track. My takeaway, my encouragement there with having a strategy going into your main event. It's very helpful and confidence inspiring if you understand everything that has happened up to going into your main event. When you've built that plan, it's going accordingly, and everything is just building that momentum, it makes it that much easier, and you can build off of that success at the next event. So if you guys have any questions about race day strategy, prep, how to practice, please leave it in a comment down below. I'll do my best to answer you guys. If you guys have some tips for people asking, jump in there, help them out. This is a community and we can all help each other. I have some more fun stuff planned, some upcoming videos here that's going to be some educational tutorial stuff that we've done in the past. Going to try to do some more of that. So please like, comment, subscribe, hit the little bell notification so that you can see when those come out in the future. So thanks to everyone. Thanks to all my Patreon supporters, all my sponsors that make this possible. And of course, you guys. Without you, my sponsors wouldn't care who I am. So that's it for this one. We'll see you next time. Peace.